Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around, we started off the Talons of Weng-Chiang. What was that one about?
Well, actually, there's something that we've been kind of discussing from the very beginning of the season because of the thumbnail. The Doctor and Leela appear sometime in Victorian England, late 1880s, early 1890s. They actually set the time because they talked about Jack the Ripper, so it has to be somewhere in there. And he basically adopts this Sherlock Holmes type character. Leela, of course, is dressed up like a Victorian suffragette, practically. But apparently, young girls are disappearing, and it turns out that Litefoot, who is a performer at one of the great theaters there, has been working with a group of assassins, basically, like League of Shadows. I can't remember their name exactly. But they've been kidnapping the girls and taking them into the cellars, the sewers and everything beneath the city of London because somebody, and we're not exactly who he is yet, has been literally draining the life essence out of these girls to regenerate himself. He has something called a time cabinet, and we speculated he might be the master, but then he didn't know who the Doctor was. So, but there's also a giant rat of Sumatra, which is very similar to an old Sherlock Holmes story. And that's kind of where we left it because it's a six-parter and we only watched the last three.
Yeah.
Or the first three.
Pretty much. There's just this thing that is absorbing life essence, and we're not entirely sure why yet. It would fit in if it was the Master, because that's, where we last saw him. It was kind of rough goings for him, but no, I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to be the Master.
No, because they mentioned the Doctor to him, and he didn't seem to recognize him.
Yeah, so, and then, all of this is also being perpetrated by Litefoot, the unfortunate part of the episode. The rest of the episode is pretty good, honestly, because even when they do use some let's say old-fashioned slurs, at the very least it's not the Doctor or Leela saying any of that. It's the specific old-timey characters, so you can sort of get away with that, I suppose. But him specifically is a bit unfortunate.
Well, it's what's most unfortunate is even though the assassins are obviously the villains of this piece, they're all portrayed by what appear to be ethnically Asian actors. And why they didn't then just hire an Asian actor to play Litefoot makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah. Or at the very least, like, one thing I thought is, because we brought up, like, Marco Polo, when we've had some of them, they didn't, they were just sort of white guys, sort of tanned a little bit and given, like, long hair or something. You could have gone that sort of route. It's the specific prosthetics over the eyes that are... and the voice that's really unfortunate. That it's like, if you had just had... honestly, if you had just had just a white guy in that outfit, we probably would have been like, well, yeah, that sucks they don't have an actual, Chinese actor, but could have been a lot worse. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're at the a lot worse in his portrayal. So...
Now, this is almost off the subject, but something I thought of after, in one of the episodes... Tom Baker actually pronounced it Weng-Chiang.
Yeah.
Now, this is still mid-70s, but I was still working at the newspaper in the mid-80s when most of the news organizations like Associated Press and United Press International, so forth, changed the spelling, the English spelling, and the English pronunciations. For example, Mao Zedong, which used to be T-U-N-G, was now pronounced as Dung, like D-U-N-G, Mao Zedong. The guy who followed him was Deng Xiaoping. Even though the name was spelled D-E-N-G, it was pronounced Dung. So I was thinking back to what I remember from my working on the newspaper, and theoretically, this should have been pronounced a way that the Chinese would prefer it to be pronounced in English. Should be Weng-Chiang.
Yeah.
It's not Weng-Chiang, it would be Weng-Chiang.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like the white person trying to say it phonetically. Yeah. And it's like, and if I've learned anything from French, it just doesn't work sometimes, So, and of course, honestly, just in English, nobody agrees how things can be pronounced anyway. So that's not a dig, because we both do that. Let's all face the fact that we both do that. But yeah, that's definitely Weng-Chiang doesn't really sound quite right. It doesn't flow as much as it probably should. So,
and one of the last note, we both agreed that the professor,
Litefoot. Yeah, Litefoot.
Professor Litefoot, very much the Dr. Watson character to Tom Baker's Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
What a brilliant idea to take Leela, this girl who seems to be primitive but is actually from a race that is, years and years, thousands of years in the future, and Dr. Litefoot, who is an enlightened man from the 19th century, and put them together with Tom Baker. That would have been a wonderful set of companions.
Yeah, definitely. I doubt. See, now we have to take bets. Is the professor going to die in these 3 episodes? Should we take a bet on that? I don't know what we have to gamble. So
I don't know. But I also, I'm reading a lot of the commentaries. A lot of the people are saying that Tom Baker actually didn't want a companion after Sarah Jane left.
Yeah, so, he thought he could carry the show all on his own. Which is strange because, even in The Deadly Assassin, he had the Casterlen, and that was pretty much his companion for the episode. So I think they could have gone, if they really wanted to do that, you could have gone that way, but you would have to introduce basically just a one-off companion every episode. Yeah. So, honestly, for this episode, if we wouldn't have Leela, but you would still have Dr. Litefoot. Yeah. And you can't not have Dr. Litefoot in there because you need somebody. And I think that was the thing where at the beginning of the episode where when he meets Leela in the Face of Evil, he goes outside the TARDIS and he just talks to himself. And I think that was to show, you can't do this. You can't carry this on your own. You have to, for the audience's sake, you need somebody to talk to. So,
and we've had a Victorian companion before, wasn't it Victoria?
Yeah.
But the problem was she was not an enlightened person specifically. I mean, she was. Yeah. Her father was. Even though he was working on alchemy, but to have somebody like that, or the Count in the Mask of the Mandragora, what was his name?
Giuliano,
yeah. Somebody who is not from the 20th century, but who was an enlightened person from their time, would have been fascinating to carry on. It's, again, we talked like Jamie. Here's this poor kid from the Highlands, probably barely knew how to read, but adapted very quickly to the situation because he said, look, here's what I know from my lifetime, and here's how I can apply it to living with the Doctor.
Yeah, definitely. Also, I mean, despite the prosthetic on our unfortunate Chinese man portrayal, the rest of the story is really good and very interesting. And when we say we would like more historicals, this is it.
Yeah.
And this is in the same season as The Mask of Mandragora, and it's do this. You can have some sort of, there's this guy with a mask who's taking their life energy and he has a giant rat that's about to eat Leela. That's fine. You can do all that goofy stuff, but put it somewhere interesting.
Yeah.
They don't all have to be the quarries or the random modern mansion. That's the other thing. If you're gonna put it in a mansion, make it go back in time a little bit.
Yeah. The Egyptian mansion that later became the unit headquarters.
Yeah, that one was interesting too. I mean, that one it was interesting, but at the same time, it's there's not a ton going on, and also I thought we were gonna get something about Egypt. You know, we just get Egypt adjacent. So, but anyway. But that's more of what we want. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
Then let's go ahead and finish up this whole season with the last 3 parts of this episode. Here we go.
Now, it strikes me that in these shots of the rat, why didn't they just do a close-up of a real rat? It would have been much more realistic looking. Boom.
Your outfit, my dear.
Oh, thank you, Professor.
No, not here. Mrs. Hudson's waiting upstairs. She'll help you change. Hope it's suitable.
And isn't Holmes the writer of this script?
Yeah.
And he's got Mrs. Watson upstairs.
Yeah.
It was a gift to Mama from His Highness Tung Chi. We came home in 73, so it's been in the family quite some years now.
Then you're very lucky, Professor. He hasn't traced it before now.
Weng-Chiang.
When?
Do you like it?
That was fast.
As the house fills, the blood starts tingling through my veins. My public is out there waiting for me. I can't talk about money at a time like this.
You don't do anything, Mr. Jago.
I announce the acts. I count the tickets. I smile at people.
That's my
idea the
job.
strain
Yeah, I
of
was
the
about to
job.
say.
Furthermore, she spent 17 and threepence on the wardrobe last week. Any sign of the doctor yet?
Who?
My collaborator and fellow sleuth. Oh, well, he'll be here tonight keeping observation.
And-
You see?
Considering that Conan Doyle was writing Sherlock Holmes at this time, how nobody has noticed that the Doctor looks like Holmes is astounding.
I suppose you've got your own men scattered throughout the audience.
No,
No. You mean nobody?
nobody. When the moment comes, Mr. Jago, you and I can face our destiny shoulder to shoulder.
Oh, corks.
Usually a man that sings that song.
I don't think I've ever actually heard the song. I've only ever heard like HAL 9000 singing it.
We did a Victorian melodrama at our theater, and we used that song in between the acts.
Someone whose legendary legerdemain has entranced and entertained all the crowned heads of Europe, here to baffle and bewilder in his eclectic extravaganza of efflorescent ectoplasm, that master magician from the Orient, Lee Sen Cheng.
First flick. Very simple.
You don't know how many of those scars I go through in a week.
Please to keep very still.
Doctor!
Please to keep very quiet. Chang, shoot 15 peasants learning this flick. Sir, I will now ask my eager volunteer kindly to step into the cabinet of death.
Is it big enough for him?
The curtain, quick, drop the curtain. What happened?
Dead.
Oh no.
Died of a fright.
Poor Casey.
No, not Casey.
Years.
Not this time, dear.
But he's escaping!
There's no escape that way. He's gone to join his ancestors.
He's just gonna get eaten.
You'll have to book yourself a new act tomorrow.
Ew.
Ugh.
You had to gauge the strength of the psionic amplification field. The rats were handy.
After that, they were useful as sewer guards.
Got it. See the lair of the Phantom. Conducted tours, bob and knob. I'm on to a fortune here.
I was gonna say, he seems to be taking this quite calmly and he's thinking, oh, it's an opportunity to make cash.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Man, he better not be dead. Alrighty. That's part 4. Honestly, that almost felt like a more midway stop Now there are the antagonist we had for most of the story is gone, and now we have him taking the cabinet. Alrighty.
I suspect that Professor Lightfoot isn't dead.
I hope not. I mean, I guess there wasn't an axe buried in his back, so that's a start. Unless they just took the axe back with them. But yeah, I hope not, because I already don't like that Casey's dead, because that was fun. So, that is always the thing whenever they introduce some of these interesting characters. Sometimes I just sit back and I'm like, they're just gonna die in a couple episodes. I shouldn't get too attached to them. So,
well, Mr. Jago is Mr. Jago is also a fun character.
Yeah. So, and that is interesting that he would just immediately think, "Oh, I can sell this," So that's at least good for him. Yeah. And we also got the whole thing with the cabinet being some sort of time travel experiment. Maybe it's a sort of proto-TARDIS or something like that.
Now, somebody mentioned that the cabinet was hundreds, if not thousands, of years old.
Yeah, something like that.
So, time travel in the past. Somebody invented time travel in the past.
Maybe something like that. They tapped into some.
That's
weird
one of the things
power.
we'll have to clear up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doctor.
Oh, they left the axe there.
Lightfoot's got visitors.
Yeah, probably give the axe to Leela. She can use it. Oh, good. He's still alive.
Were they all Chinese?
Top orders. Criminals. Gutter scrapings of Shanghai.
And one midget.
Yes. By Jove, Doctor, how on earth do you deduce that one of my attackers was a midget?
Elementary, my dear Lightfoot. He came in the laundry basket and let the others in. The Peking homunculus.
Who?
Yes. The time of manufacture, its disappearance, it all fits.
Doctor, what is the Peking
Homunculus.
homunculus?
It was made in Peking for the commissioning of the Icelandic Alliance. It was in
Okay.
the Ice Age, about the year 5000. It had one organic component. The cerebral cortex of a pig. Anyway, something went wrong and almost caused World War VI.
What?
So Weng-Chiang has brought the Peking homunculus back through time. He could have done. Disappeared completely. It was never found.
Oh, my Sam. I may have had a bang on there, but this is a dash queer story.
I mean, you could have just said it was a living doll.
Unsuccessful time
It's just
travel, Professor.
such a strange thing.
Finneker's discovery.
Why in all these films they always have some kind of secret temple for the bad guys to appear in?
Yeah, is this like... Is it still in London?
Yes.
Think large, Henry Jago, think large. Shilling a head? I must be crazy. A guinea a head. Conducted tours round the lair of the Phantom. I'll lead them myself and modestly mention the part I played in the affair. Ladies.
The bag.
Oh, the bag. Oh, that was... Is Chang still alive?
Found this in my cellar. Thought the doctor might be interested. It could have something to do with those Chinesies.
Chinese?
Yes. I had thought of communicating directly with Scotland Yard, where, as you know, he's held in the highest esteem.
The doctor is?
Oh, yes, of course. It's my opinion he solves half their cases and then lets them take the credit for it. Don't you agree?
I have no idea.
Oh, why, it's,
That's Sherlock Holmes.
Well,
they're policemen. We all know are in their solid, sterling fellows, but their buttons are the brightest thing about them, don't you agree? Now, the doctor's a real detective. You're suggesting a pernoctation, Professor. Well, alas, unfortunately, the nocturnal vapors are very bad for my chest.
Oh, come on, man, you can wrap up. I'll lend you some extra clothing.
You're very kind, I'm sure.
Now, you write a note to the doctor. You'll find pen and paper in that drawer, and I'll look you out a cape. We might be lucky, Mr. Jago. And if we are, I have a few lumps to repair.
honestly, I could use a spin-off about these two.
Jago and Litefoot. That's almost a Watson and Lestrade.
Well,
You kill again tonight.
But where? At the House of the Dragon, Doctor.
House of the
Good
Dragon.
evening,
That's a
Mr.
show on
Chang.
HBO Max right now.
We thought you'd gone to join your ancestors.
How did you get away?
When the rat took my leg, I regained consciousness in a charnel house, putrefying human remains.
Yes. Rats don't keep a very hygienic larder.
I lay there, Doctor, and cursed Weng-Chiang, my benefactor, who had brought me to this fate.
I was kind of hoping the prosthetic would be eaten off by the rat.
I came here to destroy the false god, the last act of the great Chang.
The House of the Dragon, where is it?
It is his fortress, prepared over many months by the tongue. Beware the eye of the dragon, Doctor.
Listen, come on, come on.
They are smiling and carry gifts of fruit and flowers.
You're doing a good job striking down the false god.
What?
Boot? Shoe? Spat?
Earth?
This left us a Chinese puzzle.
Well, we could adjourn for liquid refreshment. Decorate the mahogany. I know a little spot not far from here.
I think one of us should stay here and watch while the other returns for the doctor.
Good idea. I'll be as quick as I can.
Too late already.
Oh, corks.
Backs to the wall.
Keep off, you lot. I'm a tiger when my dander's up.
So this is like the third time Professor Lightfoot's been beaten up.
Yeah.
You didn't know where you were coming. You followed my men here from the theatre.
That's what you choose to believe.
Why were you waiting at the theatre? Answer me. Why? Why were we waiting at the theatre, Lightfoot?
I refuse to answer.
The OIT refuses to answer.
And do with us as you wish.
I say steady on.
Eureka! Do you know what that is?
You ask me so that you can tell me.
That's right. It's a trionic lattice, an integral part of a time cabinet. It's impossible to open it without it.
You mean it's a key?
Yes, he's not only a scientific fool, he's an absent-minded one.
Perhaps he has another Eureka.
Eureka's Greek for this bath is too hot. There'll never be another one of this combination.
Where shall we lay our ambush?
What?
Ambush. It's time we did battle with this underground crab, Doctor.
Yes! Kill somebody!
You're forgetting the doctor, Professor. There's no hope of you finding this place, how can they? Oh, the trained mind. Fleck of mud here, speck of paint there. Clues that speak volumes to a trained investigator like him. I'll wager he's on our tracks.
Definitely
this very
Sherlock
minute.
Holmes.
Jago, look at this.
That's the piece of mud on Watson's shoes
Would you see what
is
it
one of the clues in one
It's
of
a
the
dumb
first
waiter. Yes,
stories.
Of course, I know that. But, right. Come on, mate. Okay, big all right.
Called a dumbwaiter. It's supposed to take stuff from the kitchen down below up to the dining room.
Oh, corks. So much for that. Aww. Oh!
Yikes! He's got a melted pig face. I laugh at you, you melted pig face, you.
Alrighty. Well, alright. You know, we've mentioned before that when we would bring up this episode, and I knew the unfortunate thing that was going to come up in this episode, but so many people said that aside from that, the episode is really great. Alright, I gotta agree with that.
Yeah.
If you remade it just exactly the same way, just changing Chang to an actual Chinese guy, it'd be just as good. So,
Now, again, you are not incredibly familiar with the works of Conan Doyle. I don't know if you've ever read a Sherlock Holmes, we've probably seen the Robert Downey Jr. version of it, the steampunk version. But having read all of Conan Doyle's stuff and played Dr. Watson, this is so incredibly in the vein. I mean, there's a slight little bit of tongue-in-cheek, but seriously, Robert Holmes, who wrote this, obviously is a Conan Doyle fan, because it is not just a well-written Doctor Who story, it is a well-written Sherlock Holmes story.
Yeah, definitely. And it's almost a shame that it must end in the next episode. It's like, I could go for an entire season just of this, you know? Or just like every so often we'll just pop back here and just have another mystery, you know? Just next time, just don't bring the, you know, racist stereotypes, and then you're good.
Well, again, there's so much that they could do there. I mean, they've got Sherlock Holmes with Jack the Ripper. I've mentioned before, I've read two really interesting novels. One is called The Case of the Sanguinary Count, where literally Holmes and Watson are put into Bram Stoker's Dracula. There are all sorts of other wonderful takeoffs, the 7% Solution, the West End Horror. So you're right, there's so many times they could come back to this. I mean, even if it was only once every 2 seasons or so. Victorian London was such a, pardon the word for our British fans, such a cesspool of stuff going on. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I mean, just cram all that in, toss in the Doctor, and you would have an incredible season. I mean, just like they were doing with the Frankenstein and the Mummy and things like that.
That now you've just got me thinking. That's what the Universal monster movies need to do, because they've tried so too many different times to make a monster universe. I think they tried Dracula Untold, and they're like, this is going to be the start of our monster universe, and then it bombed, so they're like, okay, let's ignore that. And then they did the Tom Cruise Mummy movie, and they were like, this is the start, and they were really committing, but that bombed too. So I think that's after that they like reworked the Invisible Man. I don't know if they're going on with Creature from the Black Lagoon or Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but that's what you need to do, because it doesn't make sense to put all these monsters into the same universe. There's no reason for them to connect. You have to put the connecting thread of it's Sherlock Holmes going through all of this. And then just don't set it in the modern day. You don't even need to do that.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem is some people feel that they have to update it to attract a modern audience, but you don't. I mean, you don't know that much about Victorian England, but you're loving this because the way they've put it into Victorian England, they've made it so that you would understand it, even if you don't know anything about Victorian England.
Yeah. And also, Dracula Untold was not modern at all. It was telling his origin as Vlad the Impaler and everything. It still wasn't amazing, but it...
Yeah, I mean, and again, that's an interesting story, but the actual story that... what was his name? Was it Francis Ford Coppola who did the Dracula with Gary Oldman?
I think so.
Yeah. But see, I read the Dracula book, and although that sticks very close to it, there was so much in that didn't need to be in there. If they had just rearranged the book slightly to make it more of a mystery instead of, a horror show, because that's what Dracula is. It's a mystery of trying to figure out how to trap Dracula before he can cause any more carnage, rather than making it all about the blood and the gore.
So yeah, more of this. This and the Mask of Mandragora. Do this more often.
Yes.
I'm going to put that to modern Doctor Who as well. I'm hoping for a bit more of that with Russell T Davies coming back, because honestly, I think Russell T Davies also had the best, some of the better historicals in modern Doctor Who. Now some of the ones with Jodie Whittaker, I know there are some people out there that hate everything that she did, but it's stupid. Her historicals were some of the best of the best. But yeah, I just want more of that, and do more of this stuff. Not necessarily just like, well, we're going to go back to just this specific time, but it's like, have a little fun with it. Do some weird stuff like this.
Now, the one Jodie Whittaker that we watched together, the Demons of the Punjab.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
And even though that's literally just before my lifetime, I was born in 1951, but it was an incredible showing of what was going on between the Muslim community and the Hindu community and the partition and everything. And then the scientific element where you think that these guys are the demons, and it actually turns out quite touching that they're there to be sure that nobody dies alone. I mean, that was just a wonderful bit of writing, whoever did that.
Yeah.
And again, I told you, of the modern doctors, I like the fact that she and Eccleston were not upper class types, that they just seemed to be ordinary blokes who said, hey, I'm the doctor now, this is what I've got to work with, let's go with it.
Yeah.
And that's just a lot of fun to me.
Yeah. It also reminds me, Eccleston's third episode was it was his first historical episode where he and Rose went back in time and actually met Charles Dickens, and I think it was either Christmas, or around that time, and then ghosts were showing up. There were ghosts showing up when they met Charles Dickens, and they had to figure that out. And eventually, I think they figured out, I was like, oh, it's just these like alien ghost-like creatures. But that was a ton of fun. And the Doctor is also like a huge fan of Charles Dickens, so he's kind of fanboying in that episode. So that one's a great one too. So more of this.
Yes.
Like if you have to be a time travel alien show, you can do that. And they don't have to be every episode. Because there are good episodes where they go out into space, or there's just some alien thing, or it's in like present day. That's all fine, but I just want more of this going on.
Yeah. To me, this is where William Hartnell and those people, Verity Lambert and the rest, this is where they started.
Yeah.
And I know they keep saying, our people keep saying the historicals don't track well with the audiences. But, for a couple of history guys, that's the essence of Doctor Who for us.
Yeah. I get the pure historicals where there's no alien thing going on. I can understand that getting lower ratings, but this and like Mask of Mandragora, it's like, come on, people got to be interested in this stuff, Just leave your racism at the door.
Now, that is very similar to, of course, to the unmasking of the Phantom of the Opera.
Less than a mile from
Well.
here, look. It would be wise not to press me too far. Just lead on. Come!
For the night is long, and I have much to learn. There is some Charles Dickens in this, too.
Do you realize we've been here over an hour? The dawn soon.
In another few hours, the sun will rise.
Thought perhaps they might do things at dawn. Do things? What sort of things? Well, sacrifice their victims. You're thinking of the Druids, aren't you? Well, the Chinese make a set of them. Oh, good. I don't think I could stomach that.
You are from the future. And I, for all my achievements, am only remembered as a war criminal. Of course, it is the winning side that writes history, Doctor. But remember, you would not be
Hitler,
here if it were
Goebbels,
not
and
for my work.
Mengele. Leela just dispatched one of them.
Oh, that's good.
And she has her knife, so one assumes she truly dispatched him.
Yeah.
Now for my two partridges.
Die, bent face!
Use the actual blade.
Spawn of evil, now I destroy you!
So close.
Could have just stabbed him in the back.
Yeah. It's okay, it wasn't lethal.
Let the talons of Weng-Chiang shred your flesh!
Those are the Talons. Oh! Good shot.
Cellular
Ugh.
collapse.
All right, yes, some gorgeous stuff. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, let's hope you'll never see anything like it again.
But where was he from? Where did he go?
It was the first
Where did he come from, Cotton Eye Joe? Jeez.
Listen. The Muffin Man.
One from Drury Lane?
I'll buy you some muffins.
One lump or two, Miss Leela? To which you would reply, one will suffice, thank you. And you follow?
Supposing I want two.
No. One lump for ladies.
Then why'd you ask me?
Come along here.
No doubt Scotland Yard provided it for him.
I don't believe it.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Our policemen are wonderful.
It's impossible, Henry. Quite impossible.
Good trick, eh? I venture the great Li Sin-Chang himself would have appreciated that.
Alrighty. Alright. That's it. For the Talons. The last second named Talons of Weng-Chiang.
I mean, seriously, well written all the way through.
Yeah.
And again, whoever directed it caught the perfect tone for it. And, you know, we never really got to see the actor playing bent face, the actual Weng-Chiang.
Yeah.
His voice was good, but the addition of Jago and Litefoot just absolutely make this. They are just perfect foils for this kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So it's just the thing that it's like, man, this is like 95% great, and that last 5% is just unfortunate.
Well, again, like the disclaimer says,
Yeah.
that's the way things were, unfortunately, in the mid-1970s. I mean, it was not just in Great Britain; it was the same thing here in the United States.
Yeah.
You know, I mentioned,
If not worse in the United States.
Yeah, I mentioned, I think last time that there's some film with Mickey Rooney in it where he has the same thing with the prosthetics, and his portrayal of an Asian person, and I think it's Chinese, is just, I mean, it's 10 times worse than anything we've seen here.
Yeah.
So again, the fact that they were able to actually get Chinese actors to play the subordinates there,
Yeah.
why couldn't they have found somebody to play Li Sin-Chang?
And there was one guy at the end who didn't have like the normal like outfit. Like he kind of had like the mustache
Yeah.
and the sort of hair with the ponytail. He honestly looked like what they were going for Chang. So I was like, well, is that guy not a good actor? Can you not go with that guy? Like that guy seemed like he could have worked.
Yeah.
But
And, you know, we discussed before, and a lot of the respondents have said, for example, when they did Marco Polo, they literally didn't have a huge pool of Asian actors that they could have worked from. But here it's obvious that they did.
he had like 15 in this one episode.
Yeah. So, again, it's very unfortunate that they did not take the time to cast an Asian actor.
Yeah. I did think, though, on the other side of that, it's weird, like, some of the actors, even in the modern day, that we accept. Because I was thinking, like, you know, if you did this story today, you could still... this sounds terrible, but you could still not have a Chinese man as Chang if you went with, like, Ben Kingsley. Because for some reason he can pull that off. I don't know how he does that.
Ben Kingsley is from India.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he is South Asian. He's not East Asian, Chinese.
Yeah, it's closer than this John Bennett guy that they got, so...
And that led me to think something, and I don't think this would have been possible because he would have been probably in his 30s or 40s by this time. But Chloe Bennett, who played Daisy in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
Yeah.
she's part Asian. So, and I'm just wondering if there's a connection, if this guy's maybe her grandfather or something like that. But again, it's unfortunate. We've said all we really need to say. Everybody agrees, I'm pretty sure. So let's move on and do something else.
Yeah, because the rest of the story was good.
Bravo, Robert Holmes.
Yeah, you could pretty much, again, just if you made this, you know, line for line exactly the same, but just with an actual Chinese guy, it would probably still work out just fine.
Yeah.
So...
And they could CGI the rat. And again, talk about the easy solution for that. Take an actual rat, do a close-up, put him in, a sized down sewer, have him actually, feed him a piece of meat or something, and just show that rather than this obviously very bulky actor in a rat suit.
Yeah.
Whoever thought I would say the words actor in a rat suit?
Yeah, so, well, of course, I mean, that would happen if you had, like, a stage version of, like, the Nutcracker or something.
Yeah.
This is 100% off topic, so I won't go very long with it. Have you ever seen the Nazi Nutcracker?
No.
It's basically, it's the Nutcracker, but the rats, they're just Nazis. And this was, like, 10 years ago maybe that they made this, and it's like John Turturro as like the Rat King, and he's very strange, he's very flamboyant, but also clearly supposed to be the Hitler stand-in. It's awful, apparently.
Sounds like that book Maus, M-A-U-S, where it's a story of the Holocaust, but it's the cats that are imprisoning the mice and trying to put them in the gas chambers and stuff. I mean, I've never read it. I've only heard about it. But.
Yeah. So, and they have, like, scenes of, like, the rats taking away the toys to, like, burn them, and it's all, like, gray and terrible. It sounds like a fun reaction, though. I've heard it is hilariously awful. So, anywho. But I just, like, that popped up into my mind. So, but anyway. Well, the first thing I wrote down is Chang's act at the theater, and the trick with the gun, which was interesting. Which is, it's like I'm actually like trying to think, like, because you initially think like, oh, so this is gonna be how he kills the doctor or something, but then he actually like goes through with the trick and it seems to work, and I'm just sitting here like, how does this trick work? How did he shoot it?
Well, again, that's all part of the ledger domain and everything. But
yeah,
when I saw that, my first thought was, yes, he's going to try to shoot the doctor. But shooting the doctor in front of an audience would have him arrested immediately.
Yeah.
To me, the point was, do the trick to get the doctor on stage and then kill the doctor in the cabinet of death, where he would also supposedly disappear. But then the doctor sneaks out the back, and the other guy goes in, drops down into the basement, and unfortunately, that's where Casey was, who gets killed. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that's the other thing, is that, once you start turning it, there's no reason the doctor can't just walk out. Also, if you already have the cabinet set up over a trap door, there's no reason the doctor couldn't just find that and walk out anyway. Yeah. So honestly, I'm not even sure if that was his intention to kill the doctor there. It definitely wasn't his intention to kill Casey.
No.
So, and he didn't even do that. It was Greel who did that.
Magnus Greel.
Yeah. So that was interesting, and then we had Chang failing him and being cast out, and you think he's dead, and then he comes back, and then that was kind of a weird scene, though, because it's like, oh, okay, so he's back. He didn't actually die. He just lost a leg. But then I swear he was talking about, like, I want to take down the false god and stuff. But then he just dies anyway. So it's like, he didn't really help, He didn't even really help the doctor either. So, yeah, that was a bit odd. So you could have just had him getting eaten, and then that just be that. So,
but he did essentially help the doctor understand that this Weng-Chiang was the false god, and it was, I think he was trying to tell the doctor where the temple was located, and I never did get the whole boot earth reference.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would say, oh, that sort of went nowhere, but I have come to learn that if I say that, then in comes all the comments telling me, no, it did go somewhere. So I'm going to say maybe it did go somewhere, maybe it didn't. I'm going to ride the fence.
Where was the laundry located? Do we remember? Because it may have been a reference to where the laundry was.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't remember. Yeah.
Anyway, we were caught up in the story and missed that particular detail.
Yes. And that happens just time to time anyway. So you can tell that I've been dealing with some comments on other Doctor Who episodes. So it's always me. It's always me that gets into this, So
Just remember, we're not experts. We have not studied Doctor Who. We are literally, it's like live streaming. We are watching this for the first time as we watch it, and so all of our comments are completely off the cuff. So,
yeah. So, but off the cuff, immediately.
Those of us who have cuffs.
Exactly. We enjoy it. So, yeah. The cabinet. Okay, so this is the whole thing that the cabinet was an experiment in time travel in the 51st century that failed. So he did go back in time, but it horribly mutilated his body. Also, on top of that, he brought the Peking homunculus. Just because he felt like it, I guess. That was kind of weird. Honestly, you could have just gone with... we'd still be questioning, but if you had just gone with the doll is alive, you could have just gone with that. I don't know why they go into this whole thing about this homunculus, and it's like, okay. And for a second, I was thinking, like, wait, is he actually in charge? Like, because I was thinking, it's like, you have your villain, you have Chang as your villain. It's like, oh, well, now we have, Weng-Chiang or Greel. And then I was thinking, like, well, wait, is Mr. Sin actually the villain? I don't know. But it was kind of weird. It's still interesting. It's fine. It doesn't really impact the story. It's just sort of a strange sort of tangent. It's like, oh yes, he also just happened to take this strange homunculus
Killer robot, basically.
Yeah.
One would think just as a protector, some kind of defender to keep all the bad guys away from him.
Yeah. So that was kind of strange, but it was all right. And then, we had everything with the bag. The bag, which had, 20 other things that were not necessary, apparently. Or I guess maybe those were, spare parts in case the cabinet was damaged. But the main thing was it had the key. And then we had Mr. Jago going to Professor Litefoot. What did I write? Wait a minute. Oh, no, I put Lightwoot. That's not the name entirely.
Lightfoot.
Yeah, there we go. Lightfoot. But yeah, we had Jago going to Professor Lightfoot and teaming up, and the two of them were just a ton of fun to have. Yes. So,
but again, just the banter between the two of them. That's just It takes a story like this, and it keeps it from being, first of all, incredibly depressing, but secondly, it doesn't allow itself to take itself too seriously.
Yeah, and it's that kind of... that's probably maybe my favorite aspect of, British humor is when it... Because, this story, it's you could make this very serious or very depressing or something, but then, they're going through, and then Mr. Jago's like, oh, I guess we'll have to fight them, cocks. This is not going to work out, So, there's just something about that. Yeah. And it's also, I think I've talked about this before, the sort of almost matter-of-fact part of British humor that is just really funny. They'll just see something ridiculously crazy going on, and it's just, oh, blimey.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. What a strange spot we're in, So, honestly, the two of them, either of them could have been a good companion. We could have taken both of them with us. And it would be great if there was a follow-up story sometime meeting the two of them again and going on another adventure. So,
but you want to talk about an interesting idea, still set in this time period, have whichever doctor going back and meeting Arthur Conan Doyle, and telling his story, because my understanding is Conan Doyle was actually Watson. He wasn't Sherlock Holmes. He was an actual medical doctor, and he had a professor named Dr. Joseph Bell, if I recall correctly, at the University of Edinburgh. And he learned a lot of these pathology, modern day pathology, what we think of as CSI, crime scene investigation stuff. And from that's how he invented Holmes and Watson. But I think it would be interesting to have a story where you literally show the origins of Holmes and Watson in Bell and Conan Doyle.
Yeah, that could be interesting. And honestly, there are so many times, for a while, every season had at least one episode meeting a famous author. So like season 1 with Eccleston had Charles Dickens. For the life of me, I can't remember who was in season 2. They'll tell me in the comments. But in season 3, they meet Shakespeare. In season 4, they meet Agatha Christie, and I don't remember if that kept going on in the Matt Smith era, and I don't think it continued like with Capaldi or anything. But like that was just sort of an interesting thing. Just once every there's also some thunder going on. I think I just heard. But like once every season we would have meeting a famous author, so that just fits right in. Honestly,
you can send my finder's fee. We'll put that in the comments.
Yeah, honestly, Russell T Davies. If you're looking for newer writers, then he's retired. So ish.
Oh Lord,
very ish.
Did we explain this already?
I feel like you did. No. But yes, you've actually become Mr. Jago in real life. Yes. So now all you got to do is just shave the beard and just have the chops and the mustache.
I've never actually done that before. I've had the mustache and sideburns, but I've never done the connected and then shave the beard off.
Yeah, it sounds weird. So, but yeah, but anyway, and then we also had Jago and Litefoot's escape through the little service elevator, which that was also funny because you could probably go one at a time. And it'd be fine, but I like that they both squeezed together and tried to get up there. So, that was funny. And then, we had everything on Magnus Greel from the 51st century, who, his metabolism screwed up through going back in time. Which, I'm trying to think, like, have we, before this point, had anything about, like, early human time travel, like before the 51st century? Because I'm thinking of like there's like 20 examples of like the first time traveler on Earth and stuff, but that's way in the future. I'm trying to think if there was anything before this, but I don't think there was. So especially just using Earth tech, which apparently the cabinet is. So but yeah, and then we had The House of the Dragon, which is a great series if you're not watching that. It's way better than the end of Game of Thrones, and if you're not watching my reactions to that, go and check those out. We have a lot of fun. Anyway, but
Shameless plug.
Yeah, exactly. Which that was even just a great set, and it does make me think like, boy, nobody noticed this place being set up, or maybe someone passes by is like, oh, this is a Chinese restaurant being set up or something.
Or, it could be in the basement of the laundry. Gee, who would ever think of putting a nefarious operation in the basement of a laundry?
Yeah.
Breaking Bad.
See, we're to the point where we can reference Breaking Bad now. So, because I'm forcing you to watch Breaking Bad.
Yeah, we're almost done with it.
So, he's not the biggest fan. But if you're a fan of Breaking Bad, there's also Breaking Bad reactions on the channel that you can go watch. As well, I'm currently making my way through Better Call Saul, so you can go watch those as well. Anywho.
And support him on Patreon, please.
That too.
That's a shameless plug, but the young man here literally does full-time work on all these things, and he's only making part-time money on it. So.
Yeah, so if you want to do any of that, you can. There's links in the description and everything, so... but anyway, the House of the Dragon with the Eye of the Dragon, which I guess that was just something that he was able to make and power in Victorian London.
Well,
so.
A laser beam again is just focused light, basically. So
yeah,
just as Victoria's father was working on alchemy, so. All of the elements to create a laser would have existed in the Victorian times. It just would have taken somebody like an Einstein or someone to be able to put all that together.
Yeah. Well, they did also, I think, at one point mention, like, some sort of electric company or something, which I guess there would be, like, early forms of that, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
That does remind me, there was another historical episode of Jodie Whittaker's where they went back and actually met Tesla and had an interesting adventure with him, and he was like going through some of his ideas, and he like said one, and it's like, oh, what if you could bring up a map anywhere in the world, and the companions kind of look at each other, it's like, is he talking about the internet in the early 1900s? Like, oh, jeez. So that was also a good episode. So,
well, Arthur C. Clarke, if I recall correctly, literally in the late 1950s, wrote a short story or a novella or something where he essentially predicted the internet. The most fascinating thing I thought about that was, and again, this is years and years ago, was that he essentially came up with the idea of the personal cell phone, but instead of a device that we carried in our pockets, it was actually implanted in the bone next to the ear, so that your ear was basically the receiver, and that when you received a call, you could actually just tap the little device there, and you could hear and speak, and then turn it off that way.
Yeah, which, I mean, to an extent, that's just a wireless earbud.
Yeah.
The Apple AirPods that they charge way too much for. So
except implanted in your head.
Yeah, forever, where they will constantly pester you about updates. So
we're trying to reach you about your car's warranty.
Oh, goodness. You know how many calls I ignored during a week? So many. Yeah. So many. Anywho. But we had everything with the ending there, and I guess Leela shot the dragon's eyes specifically.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, something like that. That's a very Zelda thing to do. Always go for the eyes. That's what I'm trained to do, thanks to Zelda games. But yeah, and then they... they threw Grill into his own contraption, and it just completely broke him.
Yeah.
And then... I'm trying to think. Okay, yeah, they slammed Mr. Sin. It's a weird name, anyway. They slammed him down to the ground and then got rid of one of his components.
Yeah,
and then
got his fuse.
Yeah, and then broke the key. So, and then they all went for a nice muffin. So,
now in real life, they would have gone down to the pub and had a nice pint.
Yeah. So, it was kind of interesting, and also just like wherever they are, that Muffin Man is loud then. So,
well, I mean, again, he's out on the street and he's having to call people who are in various parts of the house to come out and buy the muffins. Yeah. And by the way, let me restate that. Professor Litefoot talking about tea, that would have been his choice. Mr. Jago would have gone to the pub and had a pint, and the doctor would have gone with him, and Leela too.
Yeah, definitely. But no, instead they all got a nice muffin. It actually reminds me of the other day when I was walking home a very long distance. But I just saw like this car, and I didn't really take any note of it. But as it turned into a neighborhood, it just turned on the ice cream truck machine, and music, and I was like, man, those things still exist. Like, I feel like those are so rare, and if they're still going on, like. How is this like the first time in like 10 years I've seen one if they're just driving along?
I was going to say, you and your brother used to, during the summertime, they used to go through this neighborhood about once a week. But yeah, it's been very rare recently, and especially now. I mean, it's October. Why would there be an ice cream truck? Now, granted, Oklahoma in October, high temperatures, upper 70s, low 80s, but still.
Yeah.
Where were these guys when it was in 100 and 110 range?
Yeah, so... and if they were driving by and I just didn't hear them, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem for the ice cream truck. So, but that Muffin Man, he's getting the word out. So.
Do you know the Muffin Man? The Muffin Man? The Muffin Man. Yes, I know the Muffin Man who lives on Drury Lane.
Yeah. That guy was shouting for muffins like they shout for the dead in Monty Python. So.
I'm not dead yet.
Yeah.
You're not fooling anyone. Anyway,
what do we got
next up?
Season 15 is up next. Let me just do this. Season 15, we have Horror of Fang Rock.
Okay.
All right, then. Good to know. Well, I mean, it's one of those where it's like, well, we don't really know anything from that, but at the same time... sometimes that's okay. I will say there better be something actually called Fang Rock, and there better be something horrifying, because otherwise I'm going to be nitpicking. So, because there were barely any talons in this one, and quite honestly, it frazzles me how they do that. So, anywho, You got anything else?
I got nothing.
All right. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to click around any of those. There's a playlist for all of our Doctor Who classic reactions, as well as another playlist for all of my modern Doctor Who reactions, which the new one should be coming up any day now if they announce it. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.